Ladies and gentlemen, up next, I have the privilege of introducing you to a gentleman I met some years ago. And when I first interviewed him, I had all my follicles in place. He's not the reason I lost my hair. Let me just start by saying that. Now, yesterday I came across a quote and I found it so profound, it reflects him completely. One man's belief is more powerful than the interest of 99. This was by John Stuart Mill, one of the most profound philosophers of the 19th century. And I found that when I interviewed Darick for the very first time, his belief and commitment to what he was doing has stood the test of time since then. From then until now, ladies and gentlemen, he has been a pillar of strength for many around him. I have a privilege of introducing you to the country director of Hope Worldwide Malaysia. Please help me welcome Darick Wong with a big round of applause.
Hope Worldwide Chairman, Mr. Bert Ong, my fellow staff, our corporate partners, friends of Hope Worldwide volunteers, Datuk Datin, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, everybody. Time flies. Hope Worldwide is a non-profit organization and a non-religious organization, and we were present in over 100 countries in the world, reaching out to more than 2 million people annually, from 3 programs in 1991 to over 150 programs worldwide, on focusing on health, education, senior citizen, employment, and volunteerism. Here in Hope Worldwide, Malaysia, we humbly established and registered in KL in 1996. You know, the early hours, the early times, we spent many hours in securing, trying to find, gather resources, until in 2000, we managed to have our own local program. Hence, today, we are celebrating the 15-year anniversary. Time flies. I thank God for helping us. He did not put us in a situation where we could not bear. Let me share some stories. You know, there was a time where leading the organization, I led Hope Worldwide to almost bankruptcy. We had an overhead of 12,000 ringgit, but only 2,000 ringgit in my bank account. It was most stressful. It was then I bumped to one person by the name of Miss Esther Chandran, a journalist with the Star newspaper at Times Square. During one of her assignments, she wrote an amazing article entitled "Curing Poverty." I'd like you to see the picture on the newspaper article. We touched the heart of a Kelantanese Good Samaritan who donated a check of 10,000 ringgit. That was our very first 10,000 ringgit. Esther is here today. Esther, thank you so much. We owe you a debt of love. The pen is indeed mightier than a sword. Ladies and gentlemen, the fund raised through her article, which amount to about 30,000, which gave us a lifeline for 3 months. You know, the story goes on. In 2003, I received a call from Mrs. Muggis. Let me just turn on this thing. And in almost midnight, this is Mrs. Muggis. She's a single mom. I received a call from her while I was departing from a hypermarket. But her call moved me to buy grocery that very instant. Probably that grocery that I thought determined whether her kids will wake up to yet another empty tummy. I could not forget her smile of hope as she waited in anticipation for me that midnight. Never underestimate a bag of groceries. And in fact, the story goes on. There was once a gangster in Sentul who threatened to beat me up because, why? I didn't want to give him any money. He ended up being my friend and even volunteer at a free clinic. Why? People change for the better at Hope Worldwide. Enemies become friends. To raise more funds, we came up with a signature program called the Bolathon, a costume masquerade ran for charity event held every 4 years in conjunction with World Cup. Our first Bolathon was held in year 2006. It was our maiden best effort at best. Our muscle was really tested when we held the second Bolathon in 2010. I'd like to see this picture. As you see the beautiful picture. But there is a story behind this picture. That night, before it rained, the wind blew so heavily, it damages surrounding trees, our hampers, stage, and backdrop. Worse still, the whole fields in the stage was totally flooded. I am thankful for the many volunteers who sacrificed their sleep that night to turn around the situation in nick of time before the event started at 6 a.m. To tell you another story, we celebrated Christmas in 2004 with a bunch of kids in Kuala Kampong Perhentian. This picture tells you that. The next picture, the very kampong was completely wiped out 1 year later in a huge fire. That was the same place where Mrs. Margus stayed. Until today, I don't know where she is. We hope, I believe, my team, one day, we will find Mrs. Margus and her 4 children. Today, she might be a young adult right now. And ladies and gentlemen, tonight's event is for those people who lost their homes. Ladies and gentlemen, from the story I shared to you far, you can tell our journey is a journey of 1,000 miles with joy and sadness. Every step we make comes with fear of uncertainties, but hope keeps us going. Together, you friends, sponsors, donors, volunteers, you keep us going. You gave us dreams so that we dare to dream for people like Mrs. Chandran. As you can see the next picture. We started our first school sponsorship program because of that need. Our financial help, we managed to make it sustainable program till today to ensure many less fortunate children to stay in school. So what happened to Mrs. Chandra and her kids? We financially supported all her 4 kids throughout their schooling years and paid her eldest daughter to study in an automotive college. She has since graduated and was headhunted by Proton. Today, Mrs. Chandran and her family is out of poverty. I also learned a lesson from the people that I help. Mrs. Tanalachmi, a widow. Despite of her poverty, the next picture, she took on the responsibility to take care of her 5 children due to many unforeseen circumstances. During one of the prayer, I was seated at her almost run-down house, and I was given the best seat. And the rest of them sat on the floor, and they wouldn't eat until I have my first bite. We are so touched and humbled by their sincere hospitality. These are some of the many stories in my heart. I would like to take this occasion to thank Friends of Hope Worldwide volunteers and all our corporate donors for their many years of sustainable work in the community. You provide the light in the end of the tunnel. Your energy gives us strength. You know, I like to end my speech with Mother Teresa's quote. It is not how much we give, but how much love we put into giving. You know, once again, thank you for your love, your care for the last 15 years, endless support, making us a difference and making us who we are today. Time flies, and together we may have another 15 years, 30 years, 45 years. Yeah, I guess I'm going to stop here. But once again, I really want to thank everybody. Happy 15th anniversary from Hope Worldwide to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Darick, for that speech.